Masters Madrid is rapidly approaching, where we'll see 8 of the best teams in Valorant face off for a chance to be the next to lift a Masters trophy. But there have never been a more chaotic and unpredictable set of teams in a pro Valorant tournament, with so many brand new faces and teams shocking the world to make their international roster debut. And with this uncertainty, it's hard to know who to have in your pick'ems, so I analyzed all the stats I could from these orgs to see who are statistically the teams destined to win in these tough matches, building my Masters Madrid pick'ems from solely stats. Also, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, as the first big event of Pro Valorant is just about to start, and I'll be making videos all about it, so you don't want to miss out. So if you've seen my new podcast called Exit Frag, link in description, then you would know my general power rankings and who I think will win the whole tournament. But that was before I really dived deep into the stats, and they've really shooken up my views on these teams. It starts right in the opening round of the Masters. The first match we'll look at is between FPX and Karmine Corp, and out of all the opening matches, this one's the most lopsided, as FPX plays in the weakest overall region in China, where they were able to beat a good team in Trace, who had one of the standout players in Feng, as well as defeating the Ascension team Dragon Ranger to qualify. But when they faced the best team in the region in EDG, they've gone 0-5, with their recent matchup during the Grand Finals being the closest they've come to winning. But that was more EG trolling over FPX getting any better. And when looking at the stats I could collect on them, they were good in their region, but those stats would be a lot different if they were playing teams their opponents, Karmine Corp, were facing. As Karmine were able to win the EMEA kickoff tournament by going 6-1 with wins against Foot, Fnatic, and Team Vitality, with their lone loss against the other European team that's qualified. And overall, they played insane, with the second best rifle round win rate at 61%, as well as a 53% first kill to death ratio that they'll definitely carry into this game against a weaker opponent. Ultimately, it's clear that Karmine Corp will continue their hot streak to move into the winner's pool. Next, we look at one of the hardest opening matches to call, Gen.g vs Loud, where we have the newest stars of the Pacific in Gen.g making their international debut against the most seasoned and experienced team in the tournament, in Loud. But really, this matchup is a lot closer than you would think, as the stats that are on Gen.g's side is crazy. They have the most thrifties won, as well as the best clutch rate from a team in their 7-game run to win the Pacific kickoff. They also have the second highest pistol win rate for teams in Madrid, but it is their opponent Loud who has the best, winning 16 out of their 26 pistol rounds during the kickoff, as well as a great first kill to death ratio at almost 54% compared to Gen.g's 51%. So it's clear that both teams have their strengths and weaknesses, but when deciding based on stats who should win this matchup, it comes down to one specific stat: the bonus conversion rate, as Gen.g were able to convert a high 46% of them, while Loud could only convert a quarter of theirs. So by doing the math, Gen.g started almost a third of their halves already 3 rounds up, but also sporting a much better thrifty win rate than Loud. And it looks like Gen.g could break the hearts of the Brazilians by sending them to the lowers. Next, we move to the 2 regional superpowers in China's EDG and the Pacific's Paper Rex. And this one is the hardest to use stats to predict, as the Chinese league is hard to calculate as the strength of the competition is much different than the other regions. But it's clear that the EDG superstar Kang has been frying on the op, with him looking to continue the performance he had in Champs, where he put up 82 kills in only 16 maps. So EDG should definitely win the opping duel in this matchup, but really it's hard to tell how good Paper Rex is really going to be from stats alone, since the sample size is so small at only 3 matches, with 2 of those against Gen.g. But even though people are rating Paper Rex lower after these few matches, their stats still tell a pretty compelling story. First, they actually put up the highest clutch rate, beating out Gen.g, but they didn't play as many games. Still, at 20%, that's kinda crazy. They're also tied with the most eco wins, being able to pull off wins when they didn't have the firepower time and time again. But the most impressive stat is their tournament high 62% win rate in rifle rounds, meaning that when they had a good economy in a round, they're able to close it out with ease. And because of that, I have to give it to Paper Rex, as even though they've had a hard time in the regional kickoff, EDG didn't look impressive enough to topple this giant that was inches away multiple times last year to winning a major event. Maybe this might be their time to shine. Lastly, we have the clouded NA team Sentinels against the brother buffed team Heretics. And for a lot of people, this will be the match of the event, with both teams having so much hanging in the balance. And really, the stats just show how close these two teams are from each other, with most of the major statistical categories being decided by only a percentage or two. But the biggest difference between the two teams lied in the pistol win rate, with Team Heretics higher by 7.5%. With that possibly being the difference maker, it could be who wins a critical pistol round to be on the better side of a 13 to 11 map. And with that, I have to give it to Team Heretics. So after the opening rounds, the tournament kind of goes in a different way from other Valorant Masters due to the Swiss system, which puts the winners, Team Heretics, Gen.g, PaperX, and Karmine Corp, into a pool, and the losers, Sentinels, EG, FPX, and Loud, into a pool, where they would be playing for elimination. And who will play who is made at random from within your pool. And this makes traditional pick'ems pretty much impossible, so rather than picking from a matchup, I'll just pick the two teams I think are the best in each group to advance. So first with the teams facing elimination. And right now, it's clear from the stats that Sentinels are the best team in this pool, while the worst is FPX, as they're not up to the caliber of the rest of the teams in the Masters. But this round comes down to EDG and Loud. Who is the better team? Well, with Loud, I have a few concerns with how they played throughout the Americas with the lowest clutch rate in Team ACS, as well as a low rifle round win rate compared to the rest of the teams at the Masters. But when comparing them to EDG, who, while they did win the Chinese kickoff, made so many sloppy blunders resulting in a low rifle win rate, but they were able to escape their region thanks to their opponents being even sloppier. Right now, it seems clear that China is the weakest region, with their top teams not living up to the hype EDG made towards the end of last year, with this being a massive downgrade, as they'll be the other team being eliminated here. Now onto the winner's side of the bracket, with both the EMEA and Pacific teams facing off. And this one's really hard. But looking at who has the most lackluster start this season, I'd have to put PaperX as the worst team out of the three, as PaperX has played well as a team like they always do with their weird comps, but so far the switch from Jing to Monyet has been a rough one, with him pulling down his team's ACS at 201, as well as the lowest first kill to death ratio, starting 52% of their rounds on the back foot. Luckily, they had a solid clutch rate that had helped them make it to this event, but this is where they fall down to elimination against any of these three teams. And between Gen.g, Team Heretics, and Karmine Corp, it's so hard to tell who's the odd man out. But after looking deeper and deeper at these three teams, it seems that Gen.g should be the one going to elimination, as Gen.g has certain stats that were much lower than the other two, like their rifle round win rate, first kill to death ratio, while Team Heretics and Karmine Corp had better worse stats, propelling them to the playoffs. Now down to who will escape elimination and make the playoffs. So we have Loud, PaperX, Sentinels, and Gen.g. And while experience might be a bigger decider on who wins in this round, stats don't take into account how many Masters a team has already been to. So it's deadly clear who are the two statistically superior teams in this, as the two veteran teams will fall here, as both didn't really impress in any key stats, as Loud and PaperX were the lowest in Team ACS and bonus wins, and this was even worse for PaperX, as they were only able to pick up 40% of their pistol rounds. And while it's just a small sample size here, since Monyet has joined the team, the roster as a whole has taken a hit. Same with QCK joining Loud. Ultimately, I have Sentinels and Gen.g joining the two European teams in playoffs to determine who will conquer the chaotic Masters. Now we're down to our final four, and when looking at all these teams, it's clear that each one of them are able to dominate in all aspects of the game, with no one being that far apart. But when being objective as possible with these pick'ems, I'd have to give it to Team Heretics and Sentinels, as Team Heretics has the best overall stats, while Sentinels struggled in categories that didn't really matter as much, with Karmine Corp and Gen.g both having glaring issues that resulted in them losing bigger games early, like Karmine Corp being completely outclassed by Team Heretics in their first matchup, losing 26-8 in 2 maps. While Gen.g couldn't close out PaperX in their first matchup after winning map 1, slowly losing the plot by the end of the matchup, while both teams were able to then go on to unstoppable runs to win their kickoff tournaments, I don't think they're as well rounded statistically as Sentinels, which is why I have Sentinels joining Team Heretics in the Grand Finals of Masters Madrid. Now we're down to 2, Team Heretics and Sentinels. But before you think that stats already prove that Team Heretics are the better team, in this rematch of the Grand Finals, a few new stats are brought into the fray that just might be enough to tip the scales. One of the biggest being both these teams' win rates in rematches, with both of them having to play their region's other representative twice. but only one of them won their match, as Sentinels have proven twice already with this roster that they can continue to cook up new strategies and counter their opponents after having faced them already, as they won their rematch in pretty convincing fashion against Loud, after falling in 2 straight maps against them their first time. And that's because once they got a hang of Loud's comp, they were able to watch it back and come up with a plan that led to success. Their other time was against Paper Rex during the Freaka TV League, where they were not only able to beat Paper Rex the first time, but came up with even more stats to beat them a second time in the grand finals to start them on this run to Masters Madrid. Team Heretics weren't able to do this against Karmine Corp, who they completely trampled in their matchup in the group stages, but once Karmine Corp got a read on them, they were able to shut down the Boo Brothers and win 3-1, with the matchup not even that close. I believe that this stat will be the difference maker to then take them down in a tight grand finals that goes down to the final map to win Masters Madrid. Make sure you subscribe with notifications on, as Masters Madrid is about to start, and I'll be making analysis videos about the biggest matches, so you don't want to miss out.